And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the final part of the Week 15 preview. As always, still waiting on news, but I can give you what I got. We have the Week 15 preview. Let's discuss my top plays at the wide receiver position for the FanDuel main slate. Week 15, 3 more weeks, ladies and gentlemen, and then it will be back to the playoffs. By the way, just a heads up, I'm letting you know right now is going to be some unique scheduling the next couple of weeks. Well, I can't, for at least for the next couple of weeks. I know next week we got a 10-game slate. We got 3 games on Christmas Day now, 2 on Saturday, and then of course the regular schedule of the 1 and 4 p.m. with the Sunday night and the Monday night game. And then we have still some flexing going on. It might be 11. But because of the Christmas holiday, 11, and then the week of Christmas 10. I said that backwards. 11 coming up this week, and then the following week we have and then like I said, Christmas, the Christmas scheduling does shorten some slates. So definitely some very compact schedules. Definitely, we'll be getting back to as if there's 6 teams on bye earlier in the season. But nevertheless, let's get right into it. Just want to give you a heads up on the schedule. I'm definitely someone that likes to look ahead when it comes to hockey or whatever, a couple of days ahead to see what games I might be interested in. And then, of course, with football, what the slate might look like in a couple of weeks. Now, even though he's 10,000, this is the guy that I think breaks the $10,000 curse of a guy just falling off. The only thing that really stops Jackson Smith and Jigba, honestly, is if he gets hurt. That's just my opinion. 10,000 against Travarius Ward-less, Sauce Gardner-less Indianapolis. So it's not like you can move the next best guy. Now you're moving your nickel cornerback into the fray. And look, Jackson Smith should eat. If they dominate and that defense holds down JT and that defense gets a couple of turnovers, you're hoping JSN gets what he can in the first half. This ain't one of those. We've already seen this story play out multiple times. He has to get all his stats in the first half. He's the main guy and probably the only guy that Darnold wants to throw to, because when it comes to the second half, man, literally, it's a risk of taking the over-under on 4.5 pass plays when they're up 17 to 23 points by the second half, because they know the defense is not going to give that up. Excuse me. So Jackson Smith and Jigba will get some ownership at that 10,000. He will. He won't be crazy owned. He's not going to be chalk. Around the industry, he's still looking at anywhere on FanDuel. He's looking at anywhere from other projections of 15, 16 minimum, which is still decently owned. He's not contrarian. He's not going to be contrarian anyway. Nobody's going to be scared to get to this 10,000. And some have him close to 20. So he's basically in the high teens, pretty much. So if you're thinking going over the field on JSN, you're not beating much of the field or whatever. He's not going to be contrarian. This is not one of those we priced him up and people are going to be scared to get to him and he ends up 12 or 11, 10%. No. You're not getting that. Puka, he's definitely, regardless, an option in the highest, pretty much the highest set total of the season at 55.5. Like I said, this is in LA out the weather. If this was in Detroit in the Dome, I think this would have been set at 56, 57. Definitely worth every penny. Another pay up, Jamar Chase. As long as he's on the field, he's still a threat. But now that Burrow's back, Jamar Chase is definitely a threat regardless against Baltimore. Rashee Rice, look, I'm letting you know right now, the ball got to be in the hands of the best player to save the season. This has more of real life implications than fantasy implications. So if you're going Chiefs, I'm sorry, I'm not really favoring the running game against that front seven of the Chargers. So I'm looking at a bunch. If I get to Mahomes, it's going to be Mahomes doubles. I am not singling out anything. Mahomes, Rice, and Kelsey. Amon-Ra. Rams all weak in the slot. Amon-Ra goes everywhere, so he's definitely a threat to go off for 8,600. I love Nico Collins this week against Arizona. This is another one where I'll be heavy on Nico as a one-off, and I will get to C.J. Stroud. I'm not worried about any defensive matchup in the secondary of the Cardinals. I love Nico this week as a more of a contrarian play this week. Also, most looking to be lightly owned is A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown looking at some looking at a redemption game. This is definitely one of those where if you don't really need Barkley, I think Jalen Hurts doubles. I mean, people have been saying it all week, but yes, against the secondary, definitely A.J. Brown double. Because the Raiders statistically are pretty good against the run. So if they decide to stop Barkley and load up the box, whether if it's a run blitz, both both Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown will be looking at a lot of one-on-ones. Devontae Adams is definitely somebody that I would love to get to this week. Sorry, couldn't load that. But with his, still hasn't been used. But like I said, he's been maintaining this hamstring injury or hamstring issue for a while now. So more than likely, he'll most likely play. Let's get to this. Big news, T. Higgins out with a concussion. So let's get back to the Bengals once again. So obviously, a lot of people, most people say is Gesicki. Well, remember a few weeks ago when this happened and it went the opposite way? Well, Yoshi Voss is cheap and my boy Mitch Tinsley is cheap. So don't forget about those two. You're looking for some value against Baltimore? These are definitely guys that I definitely would love to get to. Remember, Mitch Tinsley did have that game where he did catch one deep ball, and ever since then, except for last week, whenever there's an injury, he's gotten quite a few targets. I think before last week, in a few weeks span, had 16 in 3 weeks. Obviously, with Burrow back, Chase Brown will get some looks, but I definitely like his outlook this week. I mean, yeah, definitely this week. Definitely like him to get a few more targets here and there. And obviously, the normal guy that sees an increase in reps is Yoshi Voss. Both, I think, are viable against this Baltimore defense. So, looking for some value. Yoshi Voss, and then another one of my preseason dollars, definitely, without a doubt, Tinsley. As we keep going, Chris Olave against Carolina, always an option. Like I said, Devontae doubles with Hurts and A.J. Brown, definitely optimal against. It will be low owned, but definitely optimal against Las Vegas. A lot of people will be afraid of this Philly offense. I like Lad McConkey because of the KC blitz. It definitely benefits him, the play style. Like I said, with pressure and a lot of man coverage, it definitely goes towards Lad. When it's a little bit more zoned up and they have time to block on a man scheme, then yes, I think Herbert would definitely get it down the field to Quentin Johnson. Definitely an option. But primarily, Lad McConkey is the one that you would want to roster in a man scheme. He didn't get the touchdown against them week 1, but did have a nice day of 6 catches and 74 yards. So if he scores, that makes him an optimal score at 7,200. Like I said, my favorite sneaky game, Washington at Giants. I think Terry McLaurin's gonna have a great game against them. Now with no Ertz before, it used to be, hey, Mariota is a force in his own right with using his arm and his legs. But now that he doesn't have that blanket in Terry, I think he runs more in the red zone and he looks for Terry and Debo more. It opens more opportunities for Debo because that was the safety blanket. No Zach Ertz. I'm not really looking at, for some reason, that wasn't an option for me, looking at the backup tight end for Washington. But it's just more for a healthy Debo, a healthy McLaurin. And more than likely, it's a fresh quarterback who's been here and there. He's not rusty. So look for upkeep in targets for Terry McLaurin. Ted McMillan, hey man, Carolina definitely proving that they're somewhat in the way for real. I mean, it's still a matchup against New Orleans, so not a juggernaut, but not the easiest matchup, but still an option. Like I said, I love Debo getting more opportunities with no Ertz. Those are significant targets that just go to everybody else. That's going to be something that I'm going to like because that's their best man wide receiver, and then it's going against one of the best defense. That's definitely something I'm going to enjoy watching rather than worrying about it in fantasy. Christian Watson, but I will take him as a contrarian because he's that good against man defense that I'm willing to take a chance in a few lineups because that is a contrarian play that can blow up. It's a contrarian play that can blow up in the right way. Diggs in another revenge spot against Buffalo. Definitely like that narrative there. Once again, Buffalo covers everything deep. Diggs is not the deep play threat he used to be. He is now controlling everything underneath and still a bit shifty, so he can make people miss and create big plays. I definitely like that there. You got to pretty much roster J-Mo and Amon-Ra St. Brown, these guys, for the rest of the year, because besides the other wide receivers, after the injury to after the injuries to their tight ends, they really don't have any other receiving tight ends. All these guys are pretty much regular, blocking tight ends with an occasional, okay, fake the block, go in the flat, let's get this first down, keep the chains moving. Jameson Williams, Isaac Tesla, and Amon-Ra St. Brown are rosterable for the rest of the year. Not because they're just the Lions. It's just that with the injuries to the tight end position, that's where the passing is going to go. Not every pass is obviously going to go to Jahmyr Gibbs. So out of Goff's 38 to 45 dropbacks, the volume itself goes tremendously high. So that's a 55.5 total. So yeah, you got to take a chance on Williams. Definitely love Jawan Jennings this week at 6,200. Oh, man. Like I said, it's going to be an interesting game. Like I said, there's a lot of nice, interesting contrarian pieces on both sides of the Green Bay-Denver game. But to be honest with you, I do favor that, even though this game is in Denver, fantasy-wise, I do kind of favor this Love is hot. Love and that, they are, and he's one of the best rated quarterbacks against man. There's just something GPP-worthy about getting to the side of Green Bay. And this is coming from a Bronco fan, so definitely don't X them out. They don't need to dominate the lineups, but obviously everybody respects Denver's defense. So do I. But it's not going to take much for you to have a piece. And every now and then, just see what your lineup looks like with the stack. Those wide receivers are cheap. Jacoby Myers. They're right next to each other, but I definitely love Jacoby Myers to have a big play. GPP-wise, the GPP way to stack that game with Lawrence is to have both of these guys. The regular way would be to stack Jacoby Myers, who has definitely developed repertoire between them. But I'm definitely attacking the Jets on the ground, so I'm favoring ETM over all of them. Other big plays, it'll be interesting to see how Jaden Reed and the other wide receivers, because if they do, like I said, there are great defense, but it's very rare where you look at both cornerbacks and like, damn, I can't go nowhere. You can go away from Patrick Surtain and still have some minor success against the Broncos getting the ball down the field. This is why it's a GPP play, where Christian Watson will have his time against Surtain, and there probably won't be time. They'll move Surtain around or whatever. Other than that, Jaden Reed, Wicks, and the rest of these guys will get the other matchups and the other cornerbacks besides Patrick Surtain. So it's, like I said, it's definitely an interesting dilemma to try and figure out. Wandale, this is probably the first time I love Wandale all season. Him and Sterling Shepard. Like I said, Quentin Johnson, the GPP player. Like I said, if the block is there and he can get it downfield, then I definitely like his ability to once again stretch the field and get one of those big plays. It's not easy against the Chiefs, but to stretch the Chiefs down the field. But here's the thing. In 5 receptions, 79 yards, 2 touchdowns in week 1, can't fault Herbert stacks either. If you're not comfortable with Herbert with that hurt surgically repaired left wrist, then Ladd, one-off. Quentin, one-off. Like I said, when it comes to the blitz, if he has time, it definitely favors more Keenan Allen and Quentin Johnson a lot more. When it's the blitz, it goes, because that's the system that they go. I've gone over this before early in the season. Big blitz, heavy blitz, aggressive blitzes, Ladd first, then Quentin Johnson if they can hold it, because he has the one-on-one ability to get downfield and get it over the top. Regular blitz pickup, and he gets the chip and the running back help, then it's Quentin Johnson, Ladd, then Keenan Allen. Regular soft coverage, zone coverage, you go to Keenan Allen. As we continue here, Luther Burden. I'm not looking at any Jets with the backup. They go Romeo Doubs, another option. Not interested in Ricky Pearsall. Definitely looks like he's just slowed down. I think that possibly the knee issues are catching up to him, so probably easier for Ricky Pearsall to cross him off. I mean, it's still Tennessee can still get somewhere, but when it comes to Purdy stacks, it's either if I'm doing another running back, obviously it's Purdy, Jawan, and Kittle, or Purdy, CMC with Kittle, or Purdy CMC with Jawan. But I'm not going with Ricky Pearsall, not this week. Jerry Jeudy against Chicago, definitely viable. Like I said, that Chicago secondary is not good. So we could definitely see somewhat of a repeat performance, or at least close to it, from Shador last week. Devon Daly, definitely a nice cheap option to get some receptions. Kayshon Boutte could look to get over the top, make some big plays. They go Slayton, cheaper than Wan'Dale, so definitely you save some money with that stack with Darius Slayton over Wan'Dale Robinson. As we scroll down here, there's definitely some guys that I definitely want to talk about as we get down this far. Yeah, you got to wait on some of these reports for Dante because, like I said, you want guys to get back on the field and play, but for fantasy-wise, Green Bay, and that's another thing. The Green Bay offense is basically a mirror of the Broncos offense. LaFleur and both coaches pretty much like to spread it out with the wide receivers. Only when there's injuries or something like that. As long as there's one guy, it helps it better. And then with two injuries, then literally Green Bay literally had like 3 people to go to, especially with their star tight end out. The only difference is Josh Jacobs is the workhorse. Harvey is still the man in the backfield, getting most of the touches. It's just that McLaughlin and Tony Badee will get some touches as well. Zacchaeus is definitely an option against Cleveland. Cleveland better on the outside than on the inside slant. So Zacchaeus can, if he's available, can see some stuff over the middle and be an interesting pick. GPP dart throws, you got Demario Douglas. Like I said, Keon Coleman. Like I said, I think Shakir will get shadowed by Christian Gonzalez, so I think there's opportunity for Coleman to get there along with Gabe Davis. There goes Isaac Tesla. They're most likely going to need him. Parker Washington, still not cleared yet. There goes Gabe Davis for even 5,000. I really don't think there's anything left here to go back down that far, except for Yoshi Voss and Tinsley, to be honest. Oh, yeah, that's right. The Buffalo Bills did sign Brandon Cooks, so possibly there, too. He is running a few routes or whatever, but when it comes to, for this matchup this week, if Shakir gets the Christian Gonzalez shadow, I like Gabe Davis over the top. And that's pretty much it. Because even with the injuries to Arizona's wide receiver core, I'm not going against Houston. I respect Houston defense. I like Houston defense more than Denver, so I'm not doing that there. But that is pretty much it. That is the preview for the wide receiver video. Thank you for tuning in once again. Good luck. Pay attention to some news. There should still be some more stuff coming out. I don't think nothing else has broke as of yet. I haven't seen anything besides the earlier news that was out there. Obviously, news that doesn't affect the slate. The last thing that I saw about an hour ago, T.J. Watt officially ruled out of Monday night's game, had surgery for a partially collapsed lung. But before I do go, I'm going to leave you with one parting gift, and let's check that out in a bit. And yes, here's what I meant by a little surprise at the end. Here we go. Grade A Sportsbook. Now, I haven't done that in a while, but here's some bonus coverage for you for the end of this episode. My 5-leg parlay for the weekend. I haven't really been doing this, but there are some interesting things going on. And hey, as you can see here, I love the Giants. If I post something else dealing with that game and having like a major Giants and Redskins single game stack, I'm also interested in a Zaya likely 37.5. I did tell you guys that was something that I wanted to do over the Thanksgiving holiday, which hit in a big way. So this time I'm going with Jackson Dart for over 28.5. Even if Washington is a horrible defense that can't present pressure, I think Jackson Dart still has the ability to get out in the open, and in maybe 2 runs can get this, possibly scrambling for 16 or something like that for a couple of times or whatever the case is. Wan'Dale Robinson, 56.5 receiving, 5.5 5.5 over on the receptions. And then Tyrone Tracy, once again, a very weak defense. I went Wandale over Slayton because Redskins, not only are they just weak overall, but they're even weaker in certain circumstances, and that's the slot where Wandale most likely plays in the short field. So I definitely like that. And Isaiah Likely over 37.5. That's and that's only 3 over what it was Thanksgiving. It started 37.5, and then I think I mentioned it, but they foolishly dropped it 3 yards. Like, when it comes to run after catch, even though, Likely's been out there more and he still, in a way, splits time with Andrew, the more explosive runner for a run after the catch against bad coverage linebackers is the one who's going to have the advantage is Isaiah Likely. If anything, the goal line threat for a shorter field is Andrews. We're looking for the yardage, so Isaiah Likely is my easy pick over Andrews. I'm not worried about the almost 50 or 45% snaps that Andrews takes. I'm not worried about that at all. But that is my 5-leg parlay, plus 1493. Yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. That's what I'm going with this weekend. And yeah, as you can see, like I said, that's my theme. I love that Giants game. Maybe I'll throw out something like a big single game parlay. Like I said, they're division rivals, yes, but these are still 2 bad defenses. But there are still opportunities out there to be had. But thank you for tuning in once again for the wide receiver preview for Week 15 and a little bonus coverage at the end with some FanDuel Sportsbook. Thank you very much. This is your boy Grade A Fantasy. Have a great weekend and the end of your workday, whether if you're going straight home, happy hour, whatever you're doing. Get home safe. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the football. And I'm signing off.